Today, I'm discussing the life and works of Rizal. Before anything else, I'm Sermi Magason from BID1 Block 2. In Module 3 semifinal, the life and works of Rizal here are in Chapter 14, 15, and 16. But I'm choosing Chapter 14, Rizal and London. Chapter 14, Rizal and London. It talks about life and works of Rizal. After visiting the United States, Rizal lived in London May 1888 to March 1889. He chose the English city to be his new home for three reasons, and you will know the three reasons afterwards. Life in London. On May 25, 1888, Rizal went to London. He stayed as a guest at the home of Dr. Antonio Rigidor. By the end of May, he found a modest boarding house at place number 37 Chalcot Crescent, Primrose Hill. Rizal was a boarder of the Beckets. Beckets was the organist of St. Paul Church. Life and works in Rizal 1888 to 1889. Lived in London May 1888 to March 1889. Three reasons why he stayed here. And the three reasons are to improve his knowledge of the English language, to study and annotate Morgan's success de las Islas Filipinas. London was a safe place for him to carry on his fight against Spanish tyranny because in the time, Rizal fought against the Spanish. Engaged deeply in Filipiniana studies, completed annotating Morgan's books, wrote many articles in La Solidaridad, penned Young Women of Malolos, carried his voluminous correspondence with Blumentritt and other friends and relatives. Trip across the Atlantic. Made friends in his Atlantic voyage. The American and European passengers were amused of his marvelous skills in using yo-yo, a small wooden desk attached to a string from a ring, as a weapon. Had a chat with newspapermen but became disappointed arrived at Liverpool. Life in London. Went to London May 25, 1888. He stayed as a guest at Dr. Antonio Merigidor's home. Became a boarder at the Beckets by the end of May. Was called a Pearl of Man, in Spanish, Una Perla de Hombre, by Dr. Reinhold Rust, played cricket. According to Dr. Ferdinand Blumentritt, the noted Filipinologist and Rizal's friends, the Spanish historian Dr. Antonio Morga wrote Successos de las Islas Filipinas, which was published in Mexico in 1609. Many scholars consider this history of the Philippines a much better and honest description of the conditions in the country pertaining to the Spanish conquest. Good and bad news from home. Bad news: persecution of Filipino pirates who signed the Anti-Friar Petition 1888, persecution of the Kalambatinans, Friars attacks on Rizal by Senators Salamanca and Vida in the Spanish Cortes, and Wenceslao Ritana and Pablo Fiz in Spanish newspapers. A friend of Rizal, Lariano Viado, a medical student at the University of Santo Tomas, was arrested and jailed in believed prison because of the copies of Noli that were found in his house. And the last one, Rizal's brother-in-law Manuel T. Hidalgo, husband of Saturnino, was exiled by Governor General Willard to Bohol without the process of law. Good news and bad news from home. Good news. The only good news was Reverend Father Vicente Garcia's defense at the Noli. Content of the letter: we young Filipinos are trying to make over a nation and must not halt in our onward march, but from time to time turn our gaze upon our elders. We shall wish to read in their countenances approval of our actions. We are anxious to learn of the Philippines past, which we need to understand in order to plan intelligently for this future. We want to know all that. Next, annotating Morga's book. The greatest achievement of Rizal on London was the adaptation of Marcos' book Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, which was published in Mexico 1609. British Museum. Rizal spent many days in the reading room of the British Museum, poring over pages of this book and laboriously reading on the history of the Philippines. Next, short visit to Paris and Spain. Early in September 1888, Rizal visited Paris for a week in order to search for more historical materials. Bibliothèque Nationale. On December 11, 1888, Rizal went to Madrid and Barcelona, Spain. For the first time, Rizal met Marcelo del Pilar and Mariano Ponce, the two titans of propaganda's movement. September 1888, he visited Paris. He stayed here for a week to study more historical materials in the Bibliothèque Nationale. Entertained in a gay French metropolis by Juan Luna and his wife, he returned to London. Christmas in London. Christmas in London, 1888. Rizal returned to London on December 24 and spent Christmas and New Year's Day with the Beckets. To his friend Blumentritt, Rizal sent as Christmas gift a bust of Emperor Augustus, which he had made to another friend, Dr. Carlos Zipelac. Rizal gave as a Christmas gift a bust of Julius Caesar. Rizal's landlady, Beckets, knowing in his interest of magic, gave him as Christmas gift a book entitled The Life and Adventures of Valentin Vaux, the ventriloquist. Rizal becomes a leader of Filipinos in Europe. By an unanimous vote for the members, Rizal was chosen honorary president of the society called La Asociación La Solidaridad. In English, Solidaridad Association. This was a recognition of his leadership among all Filipino patriots in Europe. Rizal and the La Solidaridad newspaper. On February 15, 1889, Garciano Lopezana founded the patriotic newspapers called La Solidaridad in Barcelona, Spain. When Rizal becoming the leader of the Solidaridad Association, it is called there's a later content, when defeated, never surrendered. In January 28, 1889, Rizal and La Solidaridad paper Garciano Lopezana founded La Solidaridad on February 15, 1889 at Barcelona. Marcelo H. del Pilar about this newspaper. Rizal congratulated Lopez Haina and the associations. Rizal's first article in La Solidaridad. It was published on March 25, 1889, 6 days after he left London for Paris. Rizal's first article in La Solidaridad was entitled Los Agricultores Filipinos, the Filipino Farmers. Writings in London demonstrated two things: my profound knowledge of religion, and the next is my baiting satire. And these two things, this is where Rizal received news on Fray Rodriguez. An abated attack on his knowledge in defense, he wrote a pamphlet entitled La Visión del Fray Rodriguez, the Vision of Fray Rodriguez, which was published in Barcelona under his pen name Dimas Alang in La Visión del Fray Rodriguez. In London, Rizal wrote the famous letter to the young woman of Malolos. In Tagalog, he penned it upon the request of Marcelo H. del Pilar to raise the young ladies of Malolos for the courage to establish a school where they could learn Spanish, despite opposition of Father Felipe Garcia, Spanish parish priest of Malolos. Dr. Frost, editor of Trubner's Record, a journal devoted to Asian studies, requested Rizal to contribute some articles to Dr. Reinhold Frost. And that is the, in response to his request, Rizal preferred two articles which were published in June 1889, the specimen of Tagal folklore and the two Eastern fables. Next, romance with Gertrude Beckett. Rizal had a romantic interlude with the oldest of the three Beckett sisters, Gertrude or G.T. Gitty, as she was affectionately called, was a bosom English girl with brown hair, blue eyes, and rosy cheeks. I fell in love with Rizal on cold winter mornings. I had a sunny smile for him, chattering jolly like a hummingbird. During the family picnics, I was particularly very happy because Rizal was with them and I gave him all my attention. That was Yeti said. And in rainy days, when Rizal stayed at home, I helped him by mixing his colors for painting or assisted in preparing the clay for sculpturing. Their friendship drifted towards romance. Rizal affectionately called her Gaiety, and she fondly called him Petey. As their flirtation was fast approaching the point of no return, Rizal suddenly realized that he could not marry Gite for he had a mission to fulfill in life. Before leaving London, Rizal finished 4 sculptural works, and that is the Prometheus Band, the Triumph of Death Over Life, a composite carving of the heads of the Beckett sisters give as farewell gift to the Beckett sisters, the Triumph of Science Over Death. Suddenly, on March 19, 1889, he bid goodbye to the kind Beckett family and left London for Paris. He was sad as he crossed the English Channel for the cherished so many beautiful memories of London. Writings in London. Other than annotating Morgan's work, Rizal wrote a lot in London, including articles in La Solidaridad, La Visión del Free Rodriguez, a counterattack on the irritation criticism of Free Rodriguez on Noli. Under the pseudonym Dimas Alang, Rizal sacritically attacked Free Rodriguez through presenting a spirited conversation between the friar and Saint Augustine. Letter to the Women of Malolos written in Tagalog, the Malolos women pursued the establishment of their school despite the opposition of Father Felipe Garcia. The letter's main points: Filipino mothers should teach her children love of God, fatherland, and mankind. Should be glad like a Spartan mother to offer her sons in the 20. Filipino women should know how to preserve their dignity and honor. Should know how she should educate herself aside from retaining her good racial values. And the last, faith is not merely reciting long prayers and wearing religious pictures, but rather it is living the real Christian's way with good morals and good manners. The articles. Rizal made 2 articles, the Specimen and Tagalog Folklores, 2 Eastern Fables as requested contributions from Rizal and Dr. Rose Trubner's record. Specimens of Tagalog folklores consist of Filipino proverbs and puzzles. 2 Eastern Fables were written in London. Specimens of Tagalog folklore, 2 Eastern Fables requested by Dr. Rost. Rizal became an active contributor to the newspaper as Laong Laan and Dimas 24 Adios London. Rizal was forced to leave London because Gertrude's love for him has turned serious. He could not take advantage of her affections, and she could not be happy because Rizal was in love with Leonor Rivera. Next. He decided to move to Paris so she may forget him. Before leaving London, he carved several fine sculptural works, and that is the Prometheus Band, the Triumph of Death Over Life, the Triumph of Science Over Death, a composite carving of the heads of the 3 Beckett sisters. Later, he gave the second and the third, where is the Prometheus Band. The triumph of science over death left. Sacred Heart of Jesus, center. The triumph of death over life is right. In the middle of March 1889, Rizal departed for Paris. He was sad as he crossed the English Channel. He has so many beautiful memories of London. So, that's all our topic for today. Thank you.